They don't have to get jobs or anything. All they gotta do is get married.
More than half a century later, we have Modern Family.
People love the old commercials because it brings them back memories. It makes them feel good about a better time in their life when there weren't kidnappings, robberies, rapes, riots, and corporate corruption.
Here they come again.
Once upon a time, baseball was the sport of choice for kids in the U.S.
But that is no longer the case.
I think it's a new day, new time, technology. Kids have these devices and apps.
Americans' view of U.S. moral values are at their worst point in years. Get this, 81% now rate them as poor or only fair.
And other factors.
The fact that the family unit is not as complete as it used to be in terms of mom and dad, the numbers have slipped.
In fact, the change is unprecedented.
No, come on, we're just a new type of family. You know, they don't have the right vocabulary for us yet. They need one of us to be the mom.
So my guess is that throughout history, the poll skews towards poor and bad, but 81%, wow, what's going on? What are we doing wrong?
And I really appreciate your time today. These statistics are so startling that all of us, I think, are asking ourselves what in the world is indeed going on. And especially with our kids, I think of how you mentioned social media and so on. I just think of what a different world we live in, especially when it comes to the interpersonal relationships and face-to-face conversation.
It's just shocking that in today's world you would have somebody attacking you simply because you suffer from cerebral palsy.
On the streets of Los Angeles, a senior citizen minding his own business is suddenly attacked.
Story at 6, attacked for no apparent reason. Police are hunting for whoever beat up a 74-year-old man on a local street.
Sadly, suicide has become more common in our state. New data shows 3 Tennesseans choose to end their lives every day. That is a 13% increase over this past year.
To have the statistics change so dramatically in just the last 9 to 10 years, and to see our statistics here in the state of Utah, you get a doubling of statistics in one decade with our children when it comes to taking their lives by suicide. That is breathtakingly upsetting.
They came out on a school night to see their idol. Thousands
Egypt has had a wave of attacks on Christians.
Really a wave of attacks in the last few years.
A Mother's Day murder that sounds more like a graphic fiction novel than real life.
36-year-old Joshua Lee Webb, who is accused of beheading his own mother.
He walked into the Thriftway grocery store in Estacada carrying a human head and then proceeded to attack a store clerk there.
Quiet country town.
I grew up in this town and it's just nothing's ever happened like this before.
Sheer shock.
I hear more and more but in the news these days, and it's very disturbing why someone will go to that far.
The police chief saying today that it appears 48-year-old John Paul Farrar stabbed his wife Elizabeth and 4-year-old son Ian before shooting himself.
2 children shot today at their home in Dayton, and their mother is the one behind bars.
She was never aggressive.
As they saw Claudina Helton dragging them out of her house, Helton was nude and had blood on her.
Walking around in circles as she wouldn't blink, she wasn't violent, she wasn't aggressive, she wasn't anything, she was blank.
Police say Helton admitted shooting her children to, quote, save them from the evils of the world.
I'll be 63 with a golf cart just west of that residence.
Get back up in there. Go back up there. Can you hear me? What's going on? Why are you driving down the road with no lights or anything on?
Thanks for joining us. It's a crime that shocked Wichita and gained national attention.
Tonight, Rachel Hilliard is behind bars charged with decapitating a Wichita grandmother.
Is accused of decapitating Nikki Davis last month. One of Hilliard's friends says she told him she was seeing demons and had the photos to prove it.
Investigators say Hilliard told them, quote, God was telling me to do it.
What do you say to the people who are watching this and just don't believe in this at all?
There's some people that think that. There's no question.
A short time after the break-in, deputies saw an unusual sight, a golf cart speeding down the road. They decided to chase after it.
A Wayne County couple summons the sheriff's department to their home outside Oroville after a man breaks in the middle of the night, announces that he is Jesus.
Well, the arresting officer tells me that this is one of the more bizarre and disturbing cases she's ever investigated.
She's accused of making herself cozy in a multi-million-dollar mansion.
She told me that I'm to know that she is Jehovah and to go by God. Her name is God.
And that's when the sergeant realized things really didn't add up.
Today, she spoke briefly with us in a jail video interview. When we asked about the murder charges she faces, this is what she had to say.
I'm just saying nobody cares about God anymore. And I think it's very sad. And God is really sad with the earth.
I guess there is kind of a view now that, hey, we've got a serious problem. And I guess my first obvious question is, what is the situation? Are things worse than they were? I mean, is it being hyped? Is it really a terrible problem? What's the factual situation today?
Well, what's striking to everybody is the overdose deaths. The rates of overdose deaths led by opioids of various kinds, heroin as well as prescription drugs, and now the synthetic powerful opioid fentanyl, have never been higher, not since we've recorded them.
So the rate of, I mean, adjusting for population and stuff, the rate of actual deaths from drug use is higher than it's ever been.
Right, and it's been commented on that it's higher than the number of deaths by guns and accidents in automobiles combined. So most of them led by opioids. But we've never seen things like that before at this rate.
It is an epidemic, and it's been underway, what, a year, 2 years?
It's actually, John, interestingly, it's been underway for several years now, but only really became part of the public psyche, I think, just in the last year or so.
But he says cases like this are different. You can see where the guy had to be restrained. And both witnesses and Sutton believe this character was on drugs. They eat the faces off of other people. They behead people under the influence of these drugs.
Down the road in the shadow.
I snorted it at first, and I just instantly loved it.
Heroin.
It's literally like the devil has control over you.
Sergeant Charles Keene has seen its powerful hold on users. And have you ever seen heroin used this bad?
No.
It's something I've never seen before, and it's very concerning.
And Erica, back live out here on the city's south side. I want to let this image sort of just sink in.
10:33 p.m., the house lights come up, and then the sound of the bomb.
Oh my God.
Britain once again appears to be in the crosshairs of terrorists, an exhausting and horrific trend.
Well, completely shocked, and it's happening more and more.
Making this the deadliest terror attack in the UK in over a decade.
To have it be focused on children is phenomenally disgusting.
Well, Vic, it's one of the most disturbing crimes Baltimore has had in years.
Just evil. I mean, what motive could you possibly have for an 8-month-old baby?
A Baltimore daycare worker is behind bars tonight, charged with killing an 8-month-old baby girl. City police say the child was assaulted and killed while taking a nap at her daycare.
Division of Early Childhood Development says nothing like this has ever happened before.
Bruno Mars tweeted, "No words can describe how I feel about what happened in Manchester. I don't want to believe that the world we live in could be so cruel."
Being beefed up even more. We're seeing armed officers on trains. That's unusual here.
But will it work?
In France, where the state of emergency is continually extended, troops are visible everywhere.
As hundreds gathered to honor the 22 killed.
Whatever our religion, whatever our beliefs or our politics, we will stand together.
But along with that, a key component of understanding and dealing with children and adolescents is the world they're living in, the stresses, the social messages they're getting, the family environment, and so on and so forth. So, we look at what's gone on in society since the late 70s, the late 60s. You can certainly see a lot of societal changes. A lot of changes in family, the divorce revolution, changed fundamentally the way we look at families, the way we work, the stress levels. There's certainly on that palette of things that people discuss is the issue of social media and how we tend to, everyone's seen the thing where you've got two people sitting in a store and they're sitting there completely not talking to each other. I was just out to dinner the other day and we had a couple was out for it looked like their weekly date, and they're both sitting there ignoring each other while they work on their social media or answer emails and texts.
Yeah.
And that's a real phenomenon.
Two suicide bombers detonated explosive devices on Wednesday night.
Indonesia has suffered a series of mostly low-level attacks by Islamic State.
Terrorism is serious reality we are facing right now, and it's a global problem. What is happening in other parts of the world can become an inspiration for others like sleepers.
So we are just getting this information into our newsroom now, hearing at least 23 people are dead.
Once again, Egypt's Christian community is under attack.
ISIS has just launched attack after attack after attack on this Christian community.
The UK newspaper The Guardian released reports on how Facebook moderates
content moderators to keep these digital public spaces from the worst of the internet.
I agree with Kat 100%. You look at Instagram, you look at Twitter, and those are fun and great social media outlets for one purpose. But ultimately, and I'll go on record to say this, I think it's caused us more harm than good as a society and as a fabric. I really do.
In this past week, the British newspaper The Guardian revealed hundreds of internal documents produced by Facebook, ground rules for the site's content monitoring.
And that is the key point here. I think it just shows how much data Facebook has about us. Everything we like, every photo we upload, every comment we make, every person we interact with.
The picture that emerged was one of a technology company that has accidentally grown into something else.
What is the reason for the moral slide decay in America?
Well, I think the church is definitely losing its place in society. It's been shunned. You're not necessarily accepted because there's not a right and wrong now. I think it's a matter of going with the moment and doing what you feel.
This fall, a new after-school program will be offered in elementary schools nationwide. An after-school club focused on rationalism, free inquiry, and fun.
I'm Mick LaFave. Some Newaygo County parents are upset tonight after the cancellation of a Bible study program.
Instead of worship, it teaches activism. Instead of God, it teaches evolution, rationalism, and free inquiry. Its founders call it After School Satan Club.
But parents tell me that this is just another example of a world that is too politically correct.
So to me, I find the thing completely reprehensible, but I don't see how we're going back. The genie is out of the bottle.
Oh, it's just coincidental. Coincidental. It's all one big coincidence.
Why are you driving down the road with no lights or anything on? And when they caught up with the golf cart, they encountered the 20-year-old suspect who repeated his claim that he was Jesus. Huh? What's that? Okay, who am I? I'm God? Yeah. Okay, so what's going on? I'm gonna kill you. You gotta kill me. I got you. Why are you gonna kill me? To show you how much I love you. You gotta kill me to show me how much you love me. Put that down. What's that? You're Jesus? You taking your drugs tonight? Under the influence of something unknown. What else have you taken? Anything else? What's that? What? You love your God? What's your name? Tyler Lewis? So you haven't taken anything or done anything? You just want to go around killing people for no reason, huh?
In sports, whether it's football, basketball, soccer, any kind of athletic event, the mentality changes when you're running out of time. Peter's saying, change your mental makeup when you're aware of this time.
Even a little bit of myself and my friends, I can see it.
Right.
I think also that the media and, society has changed it too, with everybody on a reality show, and they're just concerned about themselves.
But no, it's this day and age where social media just drives everything. I mean, and then all of the constant updates. This is what I'm doing. This is where I am. This is a picture of the food that I'm eating. I mean, I think we just get so self-consumed in what we're doing that we start to lose sight of everything else around us.
Who would have guessed in 1985 when I was a junior in high school? 32 years later, people would walk around taking pictures of themselves all day. Seriously, 1 million selfies a day on average. 1 million. He just said it. Men will be lovers of themselves.
New research from the United Kingdom ranks popular social media accounts as they relate to mental health.
It's pretty interesting.
These social media platforms are fueling a mental health crisis.
The study authors say Instagram leads some young women to compare themselves to unrealistic images that are largely photoshopped.
To what other people think about me. I post a new photo of my new haircut on Facebook, and I can refresh and refresh and refresh to see how many likes I'm getting. And my ego goes up if I'm getting lots of likes. And ring the alarm bell that we have this tide of narcissism in the so-called first world. There's a lady named Jean Twenge who's pointed out that in these inventories that they've been using for the last 30 years, she has seen a 30% uptick in the incidence of narcissism. She says there's no other example in empirical psychological research of personality change this rapid or this dramatic. I'm just saying that is empty carbohydrates for stomachs that are craving identity. And as they have eroded, I think one of the advantages now is we can see the bedrock on which our identities are meant to be constructed.
And this was telling me something very different. Because he says, for by him, not some things, not a few things, not these things, for by him all things were created.
We need to realize this. Whenever you walk into a room, you're never going to be the supreme being in the room.
One of the distinct things about God's authority is all other kinds of authority, like kings or presidents or even police officers. These are people who had to in some way be qualified for those positions, and they were given that authority. The authority of Jesus was never given to him at a certain time. He never qualified at a certain time for that authority. He was never elected. He was never the heir to the throne.
I don't care if you've written books and books about the Bible, books and books about Jesus. You say, I'm a great author. Jesus says, I'm the author of life.
If even demons were created and can be used for the glory of Jesus, well, of course, your gifts can be used.
And when we misidentify him and start to give ourselves the worship that he is due, our identity gets out of whack.
I know that I am humbled. I know it's seen as a token of success and of accomplishment. I'm humbled and I feel grateful, but I'm not sure I'm worthy. And thank you. Thanks. And it's just...